So I guess the aim is to see that the church is as a boat to fish from and not as a pool to fish in. And that really challenged me, that we, thinking particularly about the fact that Pete Hodge was here last week and brought us that great seminar, and if you haven't had one of the sheets, there's spare sheets available, and some booklets he left for us to help us in reaching out to people. And I felt it was such an important thing that we need to be reaching out to others around us. And so reading that in his book really challenged me, and the rest of the book as well. It so many examples of how they were able to do that and reach out to people. And so I just wanted to share a few thoughts only this morning on that before we conclude. All our songs this morning have a theme running through them. They involve committing our lives to the Lord, being available to serve and reaching out to those around us. Some we know and can chat to, others we meet cold in the street, and a chance comment opens a door. And this is what the group were planning to do this morning up in the precinct. But I guess there's not too many people walking around in the precinct now this morning. And I can see from the ladies running out to the car out there, it's actually pouring down still. So the weather has turned on us. But God has a purpose in all these things, and I don't know what it is, but he'll reveal it at the appropriate time. And the next time you do it will probably be the best time to do it. And it might be an idea to do it at Christmas, really. It'll probably be snowing. And then we can stay out in the snow and throw snowballs as well. But we sang words like, "March we forth in the strength of God." And then all we can do is nothing worth unless God blesses the deed. Then we sang, refiner's fire. My heart's one desire is to be holy, set apart for you, Lord. And then in the song, far and near, hear the call. We said, say it loud and say it strong. Tell the world what God has done. And then we just sang, in surrender, I must give my every part. Lord, receive the sacrifice of a broken heart. Jesus, what can I give? What can I bring to so faithful a friend, to so loving a king? As I say, all our songs were based around that. It's a challenge because I guess we don't all feel that we're able to do that. We've got that ability. But when we commit those feelings to the Lord and ask him to help us and give us someone we can speak to today. I wonder when was the last time we asked the Lord in the morning, can you give me somebody to speak to this morning? Can you give me somebody to speak to today? Or do you get that feeling that you see somebody and you think you know them and you think, shall I say something to them? And maybe I don't know whether I can do this. I often find that as a situation when I'm playing badminton with some of the guys up at the Scotchorn, because none of them, to my knowledge, are Christians, bar one. And sometimes you just get the odd word you can able to say, but there's always that fear in my heart. They're going to get away. What do you want? It's that natural fear we feel. But when we go in the strength of the Lord and say, give me somebody to talk to today, then he may surprise us. Not necessarily in the way we expect either. God moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. We sing that, don't we? Hence my title about Let's Fish from the Boat. But before we look at the story that I read just now, let's look at one of the first times that Jesus made contact with these fishermen. Simon Peter, Andrew, James, and John. And back in Mark chapter 1, Jesus had the time that Jesus spent between his ministry beginning and death and resurrection is probably around 3 years. And towards the beginning of that, he approached these guys and he said to them in verse 16 of Mark chapter 1, as Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will make you fishers of men. At once they left their nets and followed him. And when he'd gone a little further, he saw James the son of Zebedee and his brother John in a boat, preparing their nets. And without delay he called them. And they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men, and they followed Jesus. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? If somebody came to you today and said, right, I want you to give up your job, you're going out to be a missionary. Would you do it? Would you jump at the stage of that? something happened in their lives that it was the right moment that Jesus, and it was Jesus speaking to them, that just challenged them to give up what they were doing. Their livelihood was fishing. They provided for their families, but they gave it all up to follow Jesus. And straight after that, they went to Capernaum, and they listened as Jesus taught in the synagogue, and he cast out demons. And then the four of them went to Peter and Andrew's house. And this is amazing. These things they were watching and they were witnessing. Then one minute they're in a boat fishing, and the next minute they're with Jesus, and they're moving in that wonderful place. And they suddenly go, right, we better go get some food. So they go to Peter and Andrew's house, and they witness the miracle there as Jesus healed their mother-in-law's fever. So straight away, the Lord was continuing his work, but these guys were witnessing what Jesus is doing. And we see what Jesus is doing sometimes, but do we really appreciate all that God is doing? Or do we think, oh, well, that's a coincidence? We don't believe in coincidences when it comes to Christian things, do we? So moving on to the story. As I say, you might be surprised when Jesus told them to cast their nets on the other side. The interesting thing was, he called out to them, and he said to them, when they were fishing and they caught nothing. But in a previous opportunity that came along, Jesus was with them, and they weren't catching anything. And Jesus told them what to do, and they went, well, I'm not sure we should do that, but okay, we'll do it. They trusted and they went with it. But this time he calls out, have you caught any fish? I think Jesus knew they hadn't caught any fish. I'm sure Jesus knew they hadn't caught any fish. But like Pete says last week, sometimes you just need to pose the right question at the right time. It may be a very vague question to give somebody the opportunity to reply and then start a conversation. Well, they said, no, we haven't got any fish. So Jesus said, all right, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. Well, yes, of course he knew they hadn't caught any fish, but he also knew where the fish were. And the fish were on the right side. I don't know if that's on the right side of the boat or the right place to be, but they were on the right side anyway. And that's where the fish were. Not only did they catch fish, but they caught 153 fish. I don't know where it came back to counting the numbers of fish. On a sad note, it worries me that when they tell you that 2,200 and so many people were killed in Morocco yesterday and over 2,000 were injured, but you've got the numbers were going up from 825 to something or other. How do they know individually those things? But they caught the fish, they brought them out to the shore, 153. You see, because when Jesus tells you to do something, he rewards you for what you do. And he rewarded them abundantly by giving them 153 fish. I have no idea what they normally caught, but it says the nets were so full they could hardly pull them to shore. Because God gives you more than you ever ask or think. Well, Peter then recognized who Jesus was, and being Peter, he's the guy who's going to be up and out. And of course, he jumped out of the water, got onto the shore. And then Jesus said to them, well, when they got there, they could see that Jesus was already got a fire going, and he'd got fish. Where did he get his fish? Jesus has got fish on the shore. But he didn't say to them, come and eat some of my fish. He said, bring some of your fish. Bring what you've got to me, and let's bless it and use it. And that's what God does. He wants to take what we have, and he wants to bless it and use it. And Jesus said, come on, bring your fish, let's cook. And then Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. That's a great phrase, isn't it? Come and have breakfast. Nothing better than having a good breakfast. And this lot was fish, right? I might have liked sausage, beans and chips, but there we go. Fish was the order of the day. And they came and they shared together. None of the disciples asked him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. It says Jesus came and took bread, gave it to them, did the same with the fish. This was now the third time that Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. The first time in the upper room, you remember, and then a week later he came back and spoke to them when Thomas was there, and Thomas was doubting, and Jesus cured his doubt and made him well again. So it's a great story, but it's a great challenge to us all. And Jesus said to them, you're going to catch fish. You're going to catch people now. I wonder if they thought back to that time, that first time when they were fishing on the boats, preparing the nets, and Jesus said, I'm going to make you fish after men. Did it suddenly come back to them? Because this was now 3 years later. This is after the resurrection. And Jesus was saying to them, you're going to fish for men. In the previous occasion, Peter said, when he saw what Jesus had done, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man. For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they'd taken, and so were James and John, the son of Zebedee, Simon's partners. And Jesus said to Simon, don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people. You will fish for people. They were prepared. They were ready. They'd been given a challenge right at the beginning. Now, 3 years later, Jesus was going to return to heaven, and now his disciples had the job. So how does that affect us? They had preparation from the work, and they were learning on the job. How about us? Are we learning on the job? Are we doing what God wants us to do? Are we hearing what he says as we read his word and study together? They witnessed the resurrection, and they'd seen Jesus twice already. And a week later, he was there and bringing a blessing to Thomas, wasn't he? But maybe there have been times in your life when you feel the presence of the Lord in a specific circumstance. How did it make you feel? Were you blessed by it? Or did you challenged by it? Or did you find it frightening? Because God just sometimes moves, as I said, in mysterious ways and challenges us. But they were not afraid to be obedient and step outside their comfort zone. Are we prepared to fish from the boat? Not in the boat. That's here on Sundays, and we come, and it's important we come together and we worship together and we learn from one another and we challenge one another. But we've got so much more to do. We've got to fish out there, cast the net out there to the people around us, and that's what they were planning to do this morning. And we got the water. Unfortunately, it's a bit too wet to be able to do that. But there we go. Of course, there are times when our faith, we fail, or our faith is weak. Just like the time when Peter walked on the water and then fell out of his depth and lost confidence as he saw what had happened. But we must not forget that for those unable to get out and about, there's other people who won't be able to go out and do that out on the streets. But you can be a prayer partner. You can be praying for the people out there. If you can't actually physically get out there yourself, you can be doing the prayer. We've had some great prayer warriors over the years in the church, and they've been a real blessing to the church. I've mentioned it in the past. When I used to go to camp, I used to go up and give the whole list of the names of the kids who are on my week of camp to this lady, and she used to pray, Doris Fisher. And Doris used to say, yes, give me the names. I'll pray for them all every day. And bless her, she did. And I'm sure that's why we saw so much blessing, because she was a prayer warrior. She was a tiny little thing, bent double almost, but she was on fire for God. We need to be on fire. So are we going to be prepared to step out of the boat when the future opportunities arise?